We got a huge, major altcoin signal to be looking after. I've been talking about this signal, which is on the total three charts. That's very important right now as Bitcoin dominance is falling and Bitcoin is still holding above 110K. Okay, that's still very important, even though that 110K level is not as important as I thought because it did invalidate a huge pattern on the weekly time frame, and now it's looking a little bit shaky. Okay, I've been talking about this pattern as well, which we will get into because Bitcoin is still the driver of this crypto market. If it pumps, that is very good for the altcoins, and if it dumps, that is still very bad for the altcoins. So we're gonna get into Bitcoin in just a second. We're also going to be talking about a few viewer requests. We're going to be talking about Peaq Network, which is PEAQ. It's a smaller altcoin. Okay, I do take requests. You guys can drop your requests in the comment section below. Make sure to drop a like and subscribe as well. Also, going to be taking a look into Sushiswap, see what's happened with Sushiswap, as well as Moonwell. Okay, now I will get your requests sooner or later, and I will pick random requests to do on a daily basis. Uh, so let's go ahead and dive into the news first before getting into the charts later in this video. I highly don't recommend that you guys skip through because we're going to be talking about Bitcoin, and I never trade altcoins without a clear understanding of Bitcoin. All right, let's get to the first piece of news here. This is by Be In Crypto. Okay. Bitcoin and Ethereum price faces critical risk after Israel strikes Qatar. Now, this is completely new because I don't usually see, political, like really deep political and war news with trading view. So this is completely new to me because I don't really pay attention too much to news, right? Except for financial news. Yeah, you can call me isolated, you can call me whatever, but that's just me. I really don't have too much time to pay attention to all the news in the world. But this is new, okay? And yeah, I mean, I don't really know how to respond to this, but I mean, yeah, that sounds bad. I mean, I would imagine that if war happens, people would be fleeing to gold, as we have been seeing. Gold has been rising in price, right? But I really don't think how this would. I mean, yeah, maybe it could affect Bitcoin negatively, but I really think the major factor that is going to be driving this bull cycle is going to be the Fed rate cut trend that's going to be coming up. Now, I have seen quite a bit of war news since last year, since 2024, including when Israel was I think that was back in April or May 2024. Correct me if I'm wrong. I do think that did that did tank, or not tank, but like it did drive the prices lower on one of those days. It was a Saturday, I remember last year. So this could, I mean, we could face some headwind for Bitcoin and risk on assets like stocks. But I think at the end of the day, what is really going to matter is the Fed rate cut cycle, when cheap money is going to be coming into the risk on assets. I've also seen quite a bit of huge black swan events, right? I don't think this is exactly like a big black swan event. Like COVID, I mean, that was huge, right? If you guys lived through that one, March 2020, that was probably a very scary time to be holding crypto. But what happened afterwards? It bounced back. So I'm not really too worried about this. All right, next. Cointelegraph. Lessons learned from a graduate level Bitcoin class. I didn't know they teach graduate level Bitcoin classes. But I have also graduated quite some time ago. So what do I know, right? When Bitcoin was not even a thing. So and I was not in a graduate course. I only graduated undergraduate, but back then it was still not a thing. Bitcoin was still not a thing when I was in college. So, I mean, I really think that unless they teach trading in that graduate level Bitcoin class, which I would probably prefer to just trade in real life because I don't have to pay tuition to trade. I could just trade with a small amount of money, which I did. I started with a smaller amount of money. I still don't have a lot of money, right? I mean, I didn't start with a big pot, right? I basically accumulated, right? So I rather just do that than pay tuition. um, and I think I'll be a lot more confident in developing my own opinions about how I see the markets. So next piece here is by Cointelegraph. Bitcoin taps 113K as analysis sees return to highs on Fed rate cut. Yeah, let's check the Fed rate watch tool here, the CME watch tool. Refreshed today, still at 100% ease. I know that we have some major I think we do still have a CPI report that's coming up this week. I think that's actually coming out either tomorrow or the day after. I don't think that is gonna affect this probability too much because this probability is based on the weak labor market and the jobs reports we have been getting. And the last time I checked, the unemployment rate was at 4.3%, which has deteriorated from that 4.1% that Jerome Powell was standing more firmly on. Okay, so let's go ahead and go to the next piece here. Next piece here is by Cointelegraph. Spot ETFs bleed $1 billion in 6-day outflow streak as rate cut optimism fades. Now, this is a so I would like to I I usually like to read both sides of both bullish and bearish news, just so I can kind of stay grounded and listen to the other side, right? And not get too euphoric or too scared. Just so I can get some reasoning and see the other side's reason. Because I could flip reasoning, right? I could flip my opinion. And right now, my opinion is bullish on this market because of quite a few major reasons. Some technical, and of course, the main one of the and a major one would be the Fed rate cut cycle beginning. Now, on this headline here, it says, as Fed rate cut optimism fades. Let's go ahead and take a. I mean, Fed rate cut optimism is not fading because the Fed looks like it's about to start its Fed rate cut cycle. But let's entertain this a little bit, okay? So the sell off comes as traders reassess the Federal Reserve's path despite a 100% probability of a 25 basis point cut in September. That is not exactly true. It's not a 100% probability of a 25 basis point rate cut. Is actually 92%. I mean, I would still like it for it to reference it correctly. So that's one invalid point, even though it's just by 8%. Leading strategists warn that rate cuts may not provide the expected economic boost. I could maybe I don't have to disagree with that because maybe the rate cuts may not immediately provide a expected economic boost, but I think it would immediately provide it would provide cheaper money in the market. I mean, that's a fact, right? When you have lower interest rates to borrow money, that is cheaper money, right? I mean, so yeah, I mean, I still disagree with this piece here because I think the rate cut cycle is going to drive cheaper money into the market, and that's bullish. All right, let's come back here to the charts here. So I just want to mention a few things. ES1 exclamation mark. Very important here because this is the stock market S&P 500 futures, highly correlated with Bitcoin. Both are risk on assets. I pay attention to this chart for a lot of times front running signals. I did mention that there is a rising wedge here, which is a bearish pattern. If this thing breaks down, that is still very bearish. Okay. However, let's take a look into the daily time frame here, where the bears did get trapped here, right? Where they initially try to break down from this rising wedge pattern, but the bulls bought it right back up, and this pattern is still valid because this is a wick, right? A wick does not invalidate a pattern. A candle close on the highest time frame that the pattern is valid on will invalidate the pattern. That's just the way I see it. Okay. Um. So. Uh. So the stock market is still in this bearish pattern. Very important for the bulls to break out of this pattern. It has a smaller probability of doing that versus breaking down. So something to be watching out for. There is some bearish divergence on the monthly time frame, weekly time frame as well. So let's see if their stock bulls can actually pull this off, and that would be a very good sign for Bitcoin, because if this thing dumps, chances are Bitcoin is going to dump as well. Let's come to Bitcoin here. Let's take a look into the weekly time frame. Like I said, it's looking very correlated with the stock market. We also have a rising wedge pattern here. If it breaks down by this point, let's just say, for example, the breakdown target would be almost 75K. So that's gonna be catastrophic for the altcoins. Now, I am long on Bitcoin. I am long on altcoins, quite a bit of the altcoins here. So my opinion on this market is still bullish right now. But of course, these are just my opinions and not financial advice, right? I could very well be wrong, and if I'm wrong, I can live with it because I formed my own opinion. If would I have been able to live more, just as well with it if I am basing this on someone else's opinion? Probably not. So at the end of the day, form your own opinions because you could be wrong. And your game plan after you're wrong is just as important. Let's take a look into the daily time frame here. Daily time frame. Within that rising wedge pattern, there are some bullish signals. Okay, one of which includes this daily time frame breakout here out of this falling wedge pattern. Price target for this falling wedge pattern would be about 121.5K. Okay. Now, price targets are estimates only. There could be more or less, right? Very much depends on the type of market we're in. Are we in a bull market, bear market, sideways market? I think we're still in a bull market. I think we have a pretty good shot at breaking out of this thing, right? If nothing crazy comes out of that Fed meeting, and if that Fed meeting ends up in a rate cut, right? So I think there's a good chance, if that happens, that this can actually break out to the upside. But of course, that's just my opinion, right? If we speak strictly on the pattern itself, this tells you it's more likely to be breaking down. Let's take a look into Total 3, which is a signal. I think very well should be getting some attention, because this has actually broken out of this trend line here on this daily time frame. That tells me that this is probably not going to form. This is not going to form a falling wedge pattern based on that trend line, right? Now, very important right now for Total 3 because it's basically very close to that resistance here on this higher time frame. That resistance is about 1.15 trillion. This is a huge pattern here. It has been forming since since the end of 2021. This is the monthly time frame now. 1.15 trillion is the resistance. If this thing breaks to the upside, it's gonna be crazy for the altcoins. Okay, that's when this alt season is really gonna heat up, and it's getting very close. So something to be paying attention to. Let's take a look into some altcoins now. Okay, we're gonna be taking a look into Peaq Network first. PEAQ. This is a request by one of my viewers. Let's take a look into the weekly time frame. Just zoom out a little bit and see if I can get some clarity on what this price action could be doing. Weekly time frame. Okay, weekly time frame. Falling wedge pattern. It's going to be a very common pattern you guys will see if you guys start charting. And let's see here. Okay, price target, if it breaks out by this point, for example, price target would be about 26 cents for Peaq Network. Falling wedges has a higher chance of breaking to the upside. Of course, also have to mind downside risk as well. I've seen them break down. I've seen breakouts that fall way short of the price target. Nothing in this market is 100%. Let's take a look into a smaller time frame and see if I can get some more clarity on what this price action could be doing. No particular pattern that I'm seeing on the daily time frame. Let's go ahead and come to the hourly time frame. This hourly time frame, rising wedge pattern. Okay, rising wedges are bearish. Let's take a look into a breakdown target here. Let's just say if it breaks down by this point here, price target would be about just right above 6.25 cents there. Very important to see that there is a bear trap, okay, as of the last hourly candle close. Bear traps are basically when the bears get faked out and there's usually going to be an increase in buying pressure. Now, would this bear trap be able to push the price out of this bearish pattern here? It's something to be watching out for. Okay, it's not guaranteed. Let's take a look into Moonwell and see what's happening in this coin here that I haven't really been doing for. I don't think I've done this for the past couple of weeks. So let's see if I have any. If there's any changes. Right, I talked about Moonwell. Falling wedge pattern on the weekly time frame, broke out of it back in July, the first week of July. Price target still valid. Price target here is about 9 cents. Okay, so this breakout is still valid because the price action is still above that this upper trend line of the pattern it broke out of. Now, what has it been doing since the breakout here? Not too much. Okay, and let's see here on the daily time frame. Broke out, it has formed another falling wedge pattern here. However, there is a bear trap here, as you guys can see, where the bears actually try to break down from this falling wedge pattern, but was unsuccessful because it wicked all the way back up into the pattern. This pattern is still valid. Price target, if it breaks out by this point, for example, would be about 4.4, just above 4 cents here for Moonwell. So let's see if we could get there. Quite a bit of resistance along the way, including our daily moving averages. Let's take a look into Sushiswap, see what's happening in this coin here. Sushiswap. Okay, so monthly time frame, there was a double bottom. Okay, double bottom here. Okay, double bottom neckline is about $2.80, if I can see that clearly. About $2.80. Price target would be about $5.20. Still valid double bottom pattern here. Weekly time frame, it looks like it's trying to break down from a rising wedge pattern. Breakdown target is about almost 39 cents. Let's see if Sushiswap can actually break back into this pattern and invalidate this breakout here. If you get a solid weekly candle close above this pattern here, that would tell me that this breakdown is invalidated. So this basically wraps it up for these altcoins here. Let me know if you guys want to continue seeing any more of these coins or any other coins in this market by dropping a like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you on the next one.